there, good people, and welcome back to the DNP Podcast. I'm your host, Debo, and I'm ready for what the offseason has in store. Because as we're heading into draft season, I'll do my first mock draft based on what each team needs for next season. This podcast is available on Spotify, YouTube, and Apple Podcasts, so like, rate, subscribe, and all that good stuff so you can stay up to date with each upload. Okay, well, the 2025 NFL season is now in the books as the Seattle Seahawks came out on top. They absolutely steamrolled the Patriots for all four quarters, essentially. And are worthy champions. I don't think anyone can really deny or, look at what happened over the course of the season and not call the Seattle Seahawks worthy champions. So I think, all credit goes to Mike McDonald, Sam Darnold. I mean, what a redemption story that is for him, all that sort of stuff. Patriots back to the drawing board, I guess, even though I remember saying last week that they seemed a year early, that, there were elements of the Seahawks roster and the Pats roster that obviously in hindsight now, there were night and day. There was kind of a talent gap, which is fair to say, which the Patriots obviously in the offseason will need to alleviate and move forward in, which I guess, the fact that the combine's in a couple of weeks and the draft coming up, free agency, this is the talent acquisition period of the NFL calendar, which I guess mainly, or not even I guess, like it is proven that the best way to move your roster forward and get from the top five, as these teams currently are in, to push forward into contention is by building up through the draft and drafting well, because this is where you get your cost controlled, cheaper, but also potentially high impact players right out of college. So that's obviously what I'm doing here with the mock draft, in terms of what I think each team needs, should go for based on what's available this year. No trades in this one. I think I'll just make that rule clear, especially because the draft is in April, so free agency would have already been done. So it feels like there's a lot more, to be kind of decided. So, at this early stage, it feels like the best thing to do is to do it based on just each team in their slot as it stands. To be frank, there's been a lot of trades with regards to this draft anyway, right? Because if you look at what the draft order is, that's obviously not the Rams pick because they were in the conference championship game. That's the pick from Atlanta right there. That's the Colts pick with the Jets. That's actually the Packers pick because the Cowboys have their own pick at 12. Then that's the Jags pick with the Browns at 24. So, there's actually been a lot of movement already with regards to, draft picks from their initial teams. So it would be interesting to see how things slot up for this draft. But, in terms of this mock draft, I think it's pretty clear who the number one overall pick is going to be. That's Fernando Mendoza. We spoke on him a couple weeks back after that national championship game, that the Raiders, bringing in Clint Kubiak, having Gentry and Bowers, now have three blue chip offensive player positions in very important positions for the team. So I think this is kind of the first step in at least trying to build a respectable Raiders organization. You also have Brady at the helm in basically taking up the ownership role. You've got Spicek, who they got from Tampa, and now Clint Kubiak, Super Bowl champion, offensive coordinator now. So, you look at what Fernando was able to do in the college football national championship, the college football playoff in general, and the season prior to that, like performing in big moments, making the big throws when it counts, being elusive enough. Like, a lot of the comps made of like a more mobile Kirk Cousins, a more mobile Jared Goff, not exactly an athlete type that scrambling is their big USP, big attribute. They are first and foremost pocket passers, but they can, when necessary, make plays with their legs. So I think, especially considering what else is in this draft class, the Raiders don't have an opportunity to kind of, okay, we'll take one in the second, or we'll trade back in late in the first, because there isn't a quarterback of that value that has shown themselves at this point of the draft process. Things can change. We'll see how the reports come out about certain prospects, but at the moment there's only really one at a push to first round level quarterbacks available in this draft class. So I think number one for the Raiders is a pretty obvious look at Fernando Mendoza as we sit here. Second pick for the Jets. They're a team that could kind of make any pick here, and it would be an upgrade considering the points at risk their roster is in. We'll see what happens with free agents like Breece Hall, and just bringing in a bunch of players in general over the off-season, because they certainly have the cap space. They certainly have a need at quarterback. I mean, they've clearly shown that Justin Fields isn't their long-term option or someone they want to ride with for that second year of his contract that they gave him last season. I think based on what is available at this stage, I'd imagine it'd be a defensive player. Arvell Reese is someone who's been mentioned as a very raw prospect at the edge rush position, but has been mainly applying his trade at the linebacker position in college, sort of, I guess, like a Trayvon Walker or Micah Parsons in years past, where they played linebacker in college. Abdul Carter too, who shifted to edge in his senior year, that they can be converted because they just have the right physical profile to play edge at a high level in the league. The issue that I have with the Jets picking Arvell Reese's too is that they don't exactly have the time based on the coaching staff. I mean, like Aaron Glenn, even Muji at GM, you can't draft projects in the position you're in because there's a quick trigger. Last year, the place, I guess the vibe stunk with how you lose by 25 in each of your last 5 games. The Jets is kind of commonly known as a laughing stock to begin with. You kind of want to bring in someone who can bring immediate production, so that, okay, we've drafted this guy at number 2, we drafted someone at 16 that immediately helped us move forward, that we have a good foundation with. So that's why at 2 I would go with one of Bain or Bailey, because they are edge rushers from college, have produced at a high level in their positions throughout their college careers. So in this case, I think I'd go with Ruben Bain here at 2 for the Jets, simply for the reason of being in the national championship. He was near wrecking the game, or he wrecked games against Ohio State, against Texas A&M, where that is someone who can slot right in, come up in the league, and make a big impact for them. There's questions about his arm size, his arm length, which obviously, if you look back to the Super Bowl, Will Campbell had those questions himself at that left tackle position, but I don't think it's something that should be a big dampener for future production. This is rookie. How many rookie left tackles get that sort of exposure in the Super Bowl? Not many. I think if they got eliminated earlier on, people wouldn't have the same comments to make, which is a bit backwards, because he was good enough to make the Super Bowl, but obviously doesn't get the scrutiny. It's that sort of kind of not incongruent, but like that it's not a linear relationship basically between the production and the perception. So I think Ruben Bain surely is someone who can make a big impact in the league, and the Jets will obviously hope for that themselves. For the Cardinals at 3, I think they're a big tackle team, so go with Maui there from Miami, back-to-back Miami. Think, we just got physical profile. The Cardinals need someone at that left tackle position. Again, the quarterback isn't there for them. There'll be big questions with regards to Kyler Murray and what he's able to do, or whether he'll actually still be a Cardinal to begin with. So the issue for the Cardinals in this spot is that it's not 2024 where, okay, you get the third quarterback off the board and it's Drake May and you're laughing. That's not available in this year's draft. So going with the tackle position is kind of the best way forward. They've already invested a lot on the defense side of the ball in previous years. You look at bringing in Will Johnson, Max Melton, Darius Robinson, who has had his injury concerns. There are multiple players on that side of the ball. Josh Sweat, who they paid in free agency last year. I think the biggest need that they've got is that tackle position, and Marioa is a good person to slot in there. With regards to the Titans, I think they're a similar team with the Jets, where honestly, whoever you pick here is an upgrade on what you have in that position. They'll immediately bring in a big impact for the team in that regard. You won't go tackle because you've already drafted Latham and Skronsky, who are still in their rookie deals, so you wouldn't go with that position. You could tell I hadn't prepared before doing this, but David Bailey, again, someone on that side of the ball that can go, had a very impressive season for Texas Tech this season and can translate that into the league, or at least the Titans would hope for that. With regards to the New York Giants, definitely not a defensive team. You look on the offensive side of the ball. I think in this case, I don't know, it's rated a bit low, but I think Carnell Tate is the pick here, simply because, one, they're at risk of losing Wanda Robinson in free agency. Malik Neighbours obviously coming back off the ACL. You'd hope that you could, make him have the ability to perform at the level he was before the injury, but you can't really bank on it. Feels like 5, I'll admit, is a bit of a over drafting for Carnell Tate. I wouldn't say he's a top 5 player in the class, but I think when it comes to the need that the Giants have at that position, it's definitely one for them to consider in that regard. But there's so Caleb Downs would be the only other consideration in my opinion. But running back, you've got Scat, you've got Tracy. Linebacker, you've already invested heavily in that position with Thibodeau and Burns, and you've got McFadden there as well. I think Giants would probably look to trade down, if in all honesty, but with the way I'm doing no trades, it's a bit of a tough one to say that this is this is going to be the pick here. Browns, think they're one to consider for a lot of positions in this draft. Again, it's a bit of a tough one. I think receivers where they'd go, but it's just because Jordan Tyson's got those injury concerns, so I don't know if he ends up going top 10 for that reason, because injury tends to be a reason players drop in the draft. So I feel like 6 is too high for him in this regard. Or got Schlesinger. You've already got Garrett, so that's the thing. Arthur Reese, I don't think he's the pick there. Oof, okay, well, this is great for the audio listeners. I'll just Caleb Downs. I think his position is the reason he's dropped down to 6, which was he saying dropped to 6 is a bit of a mad one, but considering the level of player that he's been since his freshman year at Bama, then transferring to Ohio State, he's someone who's definitely shown that he is someone who can come into the league and be one of the top safeties right away. I think this is one where it's just this is the best. This is the lowest I could put him based on what's left on the board. Is the way I'd illustrate it. So Caleb Downs at 6. Think the Commanders will be laughing to get Reese at 7. He's certainly someone who is, I guess, worth I don't say the punt, but he's definitely worth the pick at 7 simply due to the fact that he is someone with a high ceiling and could easily be one of the top edges in the league or linebackers wherever Dan Quinn wants to put him, which I think having someone from that defensive culture, defensive side of the ball will be beneficial to Arvo Reese if this is where he ends up going. So big up him there. Number 8 will be with the Saints. They're pretty good on the tackle front. I think go on the defensive line, really make that a force for you in a NFC South where you can really quickly get yourself up into the playoffs, because it's not a high bar to clear. I've seen a lot of mock drafts put Jeremiah Love there. It's just like, I don't know if this is the offseason where they fully move off Alvin Kamara, or whether they bring in Jeremiah Love as that tag team partner of Shuck in the backfield. It's just one where I feel like that may be too high for a team that isn't a I don't say certain contender, but because they're not a certain contender for sure. That's kind of goes without saying. But they're a team that isn't that close, and I think when it comes to the best teams or the best places for running backs to go instantly, it's teams that are, I guess, a player away, already have a contending level that just needs one of those premier running backs, like an Eagles signing Saquon or a Ravens signing Derrick Henry, where we've already got the pieces in place for you to succeed. You just need to go. The Saints, I wouldn't say they already have the pieces to succeed with Jeremiah Love instantly, so I wouldn't think that the 8th pick, the top 10 pick for them, is the best use of it. So I'll put Keldrick Falk there because real move forward with making that defensive line a force to be reckoned with Chase Young on the other end. I mean, we'll see whether Demario Davis does another year, but that defense is a strong suit for them in regards to which side of the ball is better, and I think having Keldrick Falk there would be a very big help and a very big move forward for the New Orleans Saints there. Number 9 of the Chiefs, I think I showed my hand with the last bit of the last bit of analysis with regards to where a running back should go when they're drafted, and it's teams that have everything in place. They've got Mahomes, they've got Reed, they've really got things in place, and the running game has been what's held them back, relatively speaking. So bringing in Jeremiah Love straight out of the gate, move forwards, and you're laughing getting him at 9, because it's another one of Caleb Downs where positionally they should be, and they are ranked much higher among the players in this draft, but due to the fact that they are of lower value positions in the league circles, they end up not being 1 and 2, they end up being 6 and 9 as I've got them here. So we'll put that where they are. 10 with the Bengals, obviously not receiver, wouldn't say tackle, they've invested well there. Let's go Mansur Delane, corner. Again, defense is a big issue for the Bengals. They need to shore that up. They've essentially got the offense on lock if everyone's healthy with Burrow and Chase and Higgins, and if they're injury prone, then they're stinking up the gaff. But luckily Chase and Higgins have been, relatively speaking, very healthy. Burrow, on the other hand, is where the house of cards falls down, and when he goes, the Bengals go. But that defense certainly hasn't been helping the case, even when Burrow's not on the field. So having a proper corner who could be locked down for them would be a massive help for a team that needs defensive help. So that's where I've gone with them there. 11 with the Dolphins. They're very much a team that needs help in every aspect, really. And it'd be interesting where Ty 21, where Ty Simpson goes, simply because he's the second quarterback on the board. Think it's really been a Mendoza, and then the tier below is where you've got Simpson, and then there's another tier below which is everyone else in a hodgepodge. So I wouldn't say 11's a spot where he goes, even though Dolphins are a team that look very much like they're moving off Tua and are in need of quarterback. But again, as I said at the start of this, free agency comes before the draft, so they easily could have already signed Malik Willis, and we're not even really talking about what they need on the quarterback position. So it's very interesting. You know what? This is where I'm gonna put Jordan Tyson, because it's very easy to believe that Tyreek Hill's going to be the cut, or just whether he even comes back to the field or not after a gruesome leg injury. So kind of returning to the form of having that two-headed monster at the receiver position, which is where the majority of the Dolphins' success has come in recent years. That would be a good move to be made there. I think obviously like a Peter Woods, as someone on the defense side of the ball, could have helped as well, but it feels like, for that reason, that would be something, for the reason of needing someone alongside Waddle and not just going from Waddle to Westbrook-Akine, which is quite a big drop off, kind of having two receivers to be handled, which is what they kind of did with Green Bay, which is where Hafley and the GM comes from, is having a ton of receivers to be reckoned with. I think that's one place where Jordan Tyson could go and really make an impact. Cowboys at 12 go in. I kind of regret that now because they've obviously got a ton of interior linemen with Adigizua, Quentin Williams, Kenny Clark. Peter Woods is very much not necessary. I've kind of just rushed that now, and I'm sitting here and thinking, maybe we should have done that. You know what? Let's not kind of ruin the whole draft here. Do I restart? Oh, 1 sec. And we're back. Yep, they've alleviated that mistake now. The whole draft class is as it was, and now the Cowboys pick, which isn't going to be interior line because they have invested a ton in that position so far. So this is where I'm going to put Sonny Styles. And I say that because, again, having sort of beefing up that defense, and again, a team that has 2 first-round picks as well. So, yeah, having the luxury of that means you can kind of supplement both sides of the ball, and based on where the board has gone, I feel like Sonny Styles is the best placed person to come in and be, a kind of leader on that defense, move forward in the best way possible for the Cowboys organization, really. So Sonny Styles there. 13, I feel, in the wake of the Havenstein retirement, and also the what else with the Rams? Jesus, Havenstein retirement, but let's see. I hate recording these and things slips through my mind. But the way the board's fallen, Spencer Fano, I think, is a very value pick here for the Rams, who obviously have the luxury of having the Falcons' first round pick, so are able to get this premium player where they wouldn't have normally had a premium player, considering they are the runners up in the NFC title game. So obviously very big for them there. We'll go with, for the Ravens here, Ione, because they need help in that interior offensive line. They've had a ton of you'd say that was a point of weakness for the Ravens last year, and I think beefing up that interior, you hope we'll see what happens with Leonard Baum. In their perspective, you'd hope that they'll be able to bring him back, but that's obviously not assured. So you very much look at that and you say, yeah, let's bring in Ione to shore up the interior line. The Bucs got a lot of good options here on the boards. You know what? Bang. We're gonna go with Kenyon Sadiq, because K. Dotton is a free agent, looking to be a free agent, and having a tight end that can stretch the field and be a real, an extra bit of damage on that as an offensive weapon for the Bucs. You'll see you have Zach Robinson, he brought from the Falcons, who recently had Kyle Pitts have his best season since his rookie year. So you can look at Sadiq and say, okay, we'll bring you in the tight end position and you'll be alongside Ebuka and Godwin, and we'll see what happens with Mike Evans, who's actually a free agent too, which does bring about an extra need for an offensive weapon of a certain level. So we'll say that for them. The way the board's fallen for the Jets, I think this is a real big plus if they're able to get Mekhi Lemon at 16. You have Garrett Wilson, you then pair Lemon up with him. Whoever quarterback you get, whether it be free agency or later in the draft, will have, an extra offensive weapon that'll be a really big plus for them. Have, again, two real potential big hitters on each side of the offense. It's essentially a necessity for the Jets in their position. Someone who'd come in, be an instant impact to kind of show to the league that, hey, we're not a complete dumpster fire like we are put out to be, that we can actually, play and play well and be, a big fixture to be reckoned with, is what they'd hope, at least, right? The Lions, Detroit, have, man, this is a good board for them. You could go Caden McDonald for the interior. You could go with McCoy or Terrell, but we'll show up that interior with Peter Woods, and we'll move on from there. Jamon McCoy at 18 for the Vikings. You're having someone alongside Byron Murphy on the cornerback position would be massive for them. McCoy coming off an ACL injury, didn't play last season, but it could be a real big factor for the Vikings if it's the way the board falls. He's very much someone who could play a big part in good things for the Vikings moving forward. We'll go Caden McDonald for the Carolina Panthers here. A very big. Put him alongside Derek Brown, and that is a team, NFC South champions, right? So they are a team that very much is looking on the up. I wouldn't say they need corner, I wouldn't say they need tackle. Their O-line is very good. Definitely not a quarterback team now. I mean, the way Bryce has played, or his inconsistent level of play, could lend you to looking at quarterback in the future, but this isn't the year to look at that in the draft. So I think that's where things fall for the Panthers. The Cowboys, they're giving them first Sonny Styles, not a receiver team. You double up on that. You probably, I wouldn't say tackles in need. Say you probably double up on the defense and you go Avion Terrell, because he's a player. He's got a brother in the league that is doing very well for himself, but he himself is someone who could be, a real impact player, a real force in the nickel position, in the slot position. He's obviously got a smaller frame, but can still, he was able to cover a lot of great receivers in college, and have the first round grade that I've got him here at pick 20 for the Cowboys here. I think for the Steelers, the way the rankings have gone is like for like, and I'll go with Ty Simpson here. You can't really bank on Aaron Rodgers coming back and just being great for you, or being back in the league in general. I think this is one where the Steelers, again with trades, maybe for insurance's sake, make a cheeky trade up to ensure that they get that quarterback in the future. But this is definitely a team that needs to kind of move forward. I'd also say they're the type of team that would make this move. I mean, we saw it a couple of years back with Kenny Pickett, right, where we'll draft a quarterback for the future, stay where we are, and believe that we've got the infrastructure around to make him succeed. You've obviously paid DK Metcalf. You've got, Calvin Austin. You had Kenneth Gainwell, had a really good end to the season. Free agent. We'll see what they do with him. Jalen Warren is their receiver one, running back one. Jalen Warren. Jesus, I even said it wrong. But the Steelers need to make a more long-term decision at quarterback, and based on where they are in the draft, this could easily be the year they do it. Charges, they just need their tackles back. They don't need to draft anyone. They've obviously got Trey Harris that they from the second round last year that they'd hope move forward. They've also got Quentin Johnson and Lad McConkey, so receivers not the play here. Where do these men go? Do they go Mezidio? Akeem Mezidio from Miami, bit on the older side. Do you go with him? This is mock draft 1.0. We can obviously make changes based on what happens in the off season. This isn't, I'm not the actual GM here. I don't have to actually make these picks. But let's go with Cisse. Brandon Cisse from South Carolina, someone who's made a big impact, kind of risen up these draft boards over the course of the past season. So I think we'll see what happens with the new defensive coordinator. I think they'll probably try and make something out of Cisse here. The Eagles think this is, they'll be laughing considering the ranking that the website's given them, but Landon Dickinson might retire, Lane Johnson might retire. It's moving, tackle and offensive line is becoming a very big position of need for the Philadelphia Eagles. They've obviously got Mailata on one side, but you've got two real big linchpins of their offensive line, their championship level offensive line from the past couple of years, and if one or both of them were to retire, the instant move would be to make a selection here in the draft to ensure that you can move forward with an offensive line that can block for Saquon Barkley, that can keep Jalen Hurts upright, and who knows, right? They could have a pick higher up here based on trading AJ Brown. There are obviously a lot of moves that could be made in this offseason that the Eagles don't feel that greater drop off if one of both of them were to leave the building. But I think the way things are stacking up, this tackle position is becoming a very big need for the Philadelphia Eagles. The Browns' second pick, I believe they gave him Caleb Downs, is right. Think the way this board is looking, they are very much someone who could take a Boston or Concepcion. I'll yield to the higher ranking and say Concepcion's the one they take, because they're on the offensive side, at least, they have a need of majority of positions, and receiver, getting a real big hitter, using a premium pick on a receiver is something that could really push this team in the right direction. Bears, this would be a defensive pick. Let's take Caleb Banks for them there. Makes a lot of sense. The offensive side of the ball wasn't exactly an issue. You'd even say they maybe even have too much invested in that side, because they've got DJ Moore, who's their highest paid player on that side of the ball, and didn't produce in moments, but over the course of the season wasn't producing their number one level. They've also got Cole Kmet as a second tight end, who is costing upwards of 10 million. Do you need that when you've spent a top 10 pick on Colston Loveland? Debatable. So you could obviously make moves there that get you more draft picks that later in the draft could be used to supplement the defensive side of the ball. So I think that's what the Bears will and should do in this draft here. Bills, it says it right there, team needs receiver. Denzel Boston. Khalil Shakir isn't, I wouldn't say is just not a championship level wide receiver one, with all due respect. Think you obviously hoped Keon Coleman would be that, but your owner went in the press conference and slandered him or said that I'll stop blaming him for that pick, which in itself is kind of a mad thing to say, but saying it out in public, you've clearly in your mind moved on from Keon Coleman a bit, which lends to bringing in another receiver who's of a again rookie scale, so cost controlled, and you hope actually using a first round pick and not sort of trying to outsmart and trade back out of the second round and believe that Keon Coleman's going to be your guy. Stick and pick, get Denzel Boston, move on, maybe even trade up. But Niners, this is I'll go with Mesidor here. Bloody hell, this is a team that needs edge help, which despite having 12 wins, the fact that I don't think they reached 20 sacks last season, which is an insane statistic for an honest team that obviously if they had Bosa fit, if they had Fred Warner fit, you'd have coverage sacks, at least a couple more of those. But regardless of that need to beef up that